The maroon car has just made a Sheetz run on their way home to enjoy some Netflix after prom. The blue car is on their way to their second party. They were just at a post-prom party. There was alcohol, drugs, and they made some very bad decisions. Your parents, guardians, are at home right now, excited about the night, but thinking to themselves, I hope my child's okay, and they're gonna be safe tonight. But they realize that things do happen. Your parents, your guardians, they have no idea of the reality that's going to happen tonight with their son or daughter. What's happening right now, these bystanders are the first ones on the scene and have driven by and seen the crash. They're quickly calling 911. These 911 calls are something emergency responders receive every single day. What these callers are telling the dispatcher is exactly what they see. They'll see smoke, they see blood, they see bones, they see glass. They don't know if these people are alive or if they're dead. But in just a short time, the dispatcher is going to dispatch the fire department and the police department. When you hear these sirens, it's going to signify hope. Hope that help is going to be on the way, and that hopefully some of these emergency workers can practice their skills and save lives. But unfortunately, there are times when that does not occur. Unfortunately, sometimes these sirens, rather than just hope, they also signal paralysis, dismemberment, serious burns, and even death. And also, sometimes that life for somebody will probably never, ever be the same. As you can see, there's some lag time when it takes law enforcement and the fire department to arrive on scene. We're doing this in real time for you. This isn't like TV. Everything doesn't always get better. The hospital just doesn't treat every patient in 30 minutes and they recover. You're seeing law enforcement doing their job investigating this serious, possibly even fatal crash. You're going to see the fire department respond and try to help the victims, removing them from vehicles. You're going to see every single emergency worker that responds to a terrible tragedy like this has a specific job to do. You'll see a police officer performing a field sobriety test on the driver of the vehicle. That officer is making Gabe take the test to determine his impairment, whether he's impaired to the point where he should not have been driving a motor vehicle. And it's pretty obvious by the way that he's performing that he's impaired. Gabe's life is going to change. He had aspirations of going to college to play basketball. Now, he'll be arrested with a felony crime of DUI manslaughter or vehicular homicide or DUI with serious bodily injuries. Chances of him having a basketball career are over. Just like that. One bad decision. His life will never be the same. For him, the victims, their families, all of you. Take a look at the windshields of the vehicles. It's pretty evident passengers in these vehicles were not wearing their seatbelt. Had they been wearing their seatbelt, you wouldn't see the imprints on the windshields with blood, hair, bone. They would have been restrained. Doesn't mean they wouldn't have been injured. But when your head strikes the windshield at the speed that your vehicle is going, chances are pretty good it's going to be a fatal injury. What you're seeing now is the fire department triaging the victims in both of the cars. They're going to determine what patients they can save, what patients are priority, who do they work on first. Normally, when you see that sheet come out on a crash like this, the sheet blanket is an indication of a fatality. When you arrive on a scene as a law enforcement officer or as an emergency response person and you see that yellow blanket, you know this is a tragedy. Sometimes it's even necessary to use the jaws of life to cut into the middle of the cars to try to free the injured victims. They can't rush at doing this. There could be spinal injuries. They have to be very methodical and very careful of removing the patients from the cars and getting them to the hospital. There's this thing called the golden hour that we work around that law enforcement and the fire service use. The golden hour begins when the crash happens. Statistics have shown that if we can get a patient to the hospital, to the operating table, within 1 hour of the crash actually occurring, the chance of survival is much greater. So every second right now is time ticking in that golden hour. While these firefighters are trying to save lives, Gabe, who was drunk, who was driving, who caused the serious and fatal crash, is now sitting in the back of a police car, arrested, being charged with a felony. His life will never be the same again. But don't forget the victims in the car. Don't forget the parents, everybody who cares for you. Don't forget the friends and other loved ones. Their lives will never be the same again either. As Emma and Billy's parents sit home, they're happy, excited. Their son, daughter, are having one of the most memorable nights of their lives at prom. This was supposed to be fun, memorable. They have no clue what's going on with their son and daughter right now, and that they'll never get to speak to them again.
Guys, I'm going to speak to you as if I was the prosecutor and what's going to happen. Gabe gets handcuffed. He gets put into a car. What will happen to him? He's going to be charged with a felony, but not just one. In fact, when this gets to my office, or anyone in my office gets this file, he's going to be charged with 4 crimes, all felonies. And I want you to understand what I'm talking about here because it's very important. We try to take this message to heart because these consequences are real, not only for Gabe, but for everyone in these cars. Everyone involved in this, no one will be the same after this. No matter how much training and experience these firefighters have, these police officers have, the image that they're taking in right now will not be forgotten. It's going to leave an imprint on them. So for the purposes of legal ramifications of what Gabe has done, he's been handcuffed and he's been taken to ELPD jail. He's going to be advised that he can either voluntarily provide a sample of his breath or his blood. That's the nice way of putting it, because if he refuses to give that to us, we're going to take it anyway. We're going to hold his arm down and we're going to extract a sample of his blood to determine what is in his system. Alcohol, drugs, any sort of medications, prescribed or otherwise. That's going to be off to the Ohio BCI, that's the Bureau of Criminal Investigation and Identification, where it'll be analyzed. I'll get those results. Everything that's being done here is being photographed and recorded. All of the statements that are being taken, I'm going to get all of that. As prosecutor, we'll be going to comb through all of it. He'll be looking at every piece of evidence. Prosecutor will look at every photo. He's going to talk to every single one of the people to talk about what they saw, what they smelled, what they experienced. All of the exercises, field sobriety tests that Gabe did on the side with the officer were probably recorded. I'm going to get that tape and I'm going to talk to that officer. I'm going to nitpick every single thing he did with those exercises, and I'm going to attribute to whatever those results are from his blood and breath samples. When it's all said and done, he's going to be charged with DUI manslaughter, which is a second-degree felony. He's going to be charged with vehicular homicide, which is a second-degree felony. And he's going to be charged with driving under the influence causing serious bodily injury, which is a third-degree felony. He's going to face 2 charges of that. So the total he's going to face are 4 charges. With regards to the DUI manslaughter, because that's a second-degree felony, he's going to be facing 15 years in the Department of Corrections. That's not 15 years in county jail down the street. That's 15 years upstate. He's going to be facing a $10,000 fine. He's going to lose his driving privileges for the rest of his life. So at 17 or 18 years old, he won't be able to drive again. Then he'll be facing vehicular homicide, and for that, the DUI manslaughter, what I have to prove is that while he's under the influence of alcohol and drugs, to the extent that his normal faculties are impaired, or while having a blood or alcohol level over the legal limit, that he drove a car, caused or contributed to the death of anyone involved. When I say anyone involved, I don't mean the people in the vehicles. Unfortunately, sometimes these accidents happen when people are walking down the street or other cars are around. Any one of those people gets hit with a piece of debris or has to dive out of the way or get hit by another vehicle, anything like that happens, even though they weren't necessarily in the car, Gabe is responsible, and he's going to be held accountable for that death. If it's a pregnant woman and she loses her child, he's going to be charged with that also. So you see how these things pile up on one another. Now for vehicular homicide, I have to prove that he caused or contributed to the death of someone while he was driving recklessly. And I'm going to take everything that's being done. You saw the measurements being taken. I'm going to get those reports. This accident is going to be reconstructed, and I'm going to get a picture of all the alcohol taken out of the vehicle. I'm going to look at the skid marks, and I'm going to have people testify about those skid marks and what they mean. How fast was he going? What did he do? Did he apply the brakes? Did he not apply the brakes? All of that is going to contribute to me convincing 6 people that Gabe is responsible for these deaths. Now, for the people in these cars fortunate enough to survive, Gabe is still going to face consequences for those. The DUI causing serious bodily injury is a 3rd-degree felony. He's facing 5 years for each one of those counts in the Department of Corrections, and a $5,000 fine and lose his license for additional 3 years. So again, on top of the 10 years that he's facing for DUI manslaughter, the 10 years he's facing for vehicular homicide, he now faces an additional 10 years for the DUI causing serious bodily injury. And serious bodily injury can be anything from a glass shard to the face, an arm that won't ever be the same, a leg that won't ever be the same, the loss of one's eyesight, anything like that, he's going to be responsible for. And my office's job is to make sure that he's held accountable. We do this with the full knowledge that nothing we do is going to bring them back, and nothing we do is going to take or make the parents feel any better. We do it to solely hold Gabe accountable for the choices he made on this particular night when he had the opportunity to do the things the right way and the responsible way. It won't be lost on us that Gabe is not 21 years old. He shouldn't have been drinking in the first place. Now, I'm going to use that to talk to the jury about how much more this crime was, because he made a conscious decision to break the law in the first place by drinking and being in possession of alcohol. But then he made the compounding decision to get into the vehicle. He made that decision to get into the vehicle and be impaired and cause all these deaths and injuries. So in total, Gabe is facing 40 years in the Department of Corrections, $30,000 in fines, and he'll never be able to drive again, and he's going to be a convicted felon 4 times over. We all know a lot of people who are planning to become doctors and engineers, accountants, teachers, police officers, and different things like that. I want to explain to you that if you are a convicted felon, you can kiss those dreams goodbye. Gabe is kissing his college basketball dreams goodbye, and any other thing that he wanted to do that required a background check, which most jobs do. I want you to imagine trying to get a job and be a convicted felon. And that's after you spend 40 years in prison. Now, for you juniors and seniors, 40 years might seem like this lofty number that you can't really put your head around because you're not even 40 years old yet. I want you to think back from your first day as a freshman. It's essentially 4 years of school. Now imagine doing that 10 times over. Going through your high school years 10 times, that's how long you'll be in prison. You'll almost be 60 years old by the time you come out, and you'll be a convicted felon. No prospects, probably no education aside from what you got up to this point of this incident, and really no true meaningful future. And you might think that that makes me feel bad as a prosecutor, but things like that are what make us feel bad at the state attorney's office, but it doesn't. Because at least you're alive. These people didn't have that option. These people died and are never going to be the same again. So while all this is going on, you want to think about all the things that Gabe will have to experience during this process. He's going to be arrested, he's going to be booked, he's going to have a booking photo, he's going to be put in jail, and he's going to see a judge eventually. The judge will maybe let him out of jail until his trial, and then he'll have to appear for court dates. He'll have to sit there, look people in the eye as they testify against him, including his friends, and I'm going to call them, and I'm going to make them take the stand and tell me everything that he did. Everything he did, everything that happened that night. I'm going to find out what party he went to. I'm going to find out who knew how much he was drinking that night, who saw him getting into the car, what did he say, what did he do, all of that. It's all going to be presented to a jury in an effort to find him guilty. We're very good at what we do. All these people are very good at what they do. Nothing is going to stop me from getting more information to make sure Gabe is held accountable. So just keep this in mind. Have a great prom and graduation weekend, but remember your decisions have ramifications. Don't make the poor decision to drink when you're not old enough, but if you do, and you make that decision, don't compound it by getting into a car and driving. Your parents might be upset, but believe me, they'd much rather have you home and alive and dealing with them as opposed to going through what Gabe is going through now. Think about it, guys. Thank you.
Remember, we were talking about that golden hour. They're still working on getting people out of the car. Right now, they're utilizing the jaws of life, cut into the car. So again, they're using the jaws of life. Firefighters working with the EMTs, they're using other mechanical tools to remove the top off the vehicle. The reason that they do this is they have to try to remove the victims out of the car without causing further injury. It's easier for them to put their immobilization devices on the victims, properly remove them from the car, and get them transported and packaged to the hospital without furthering their injuries. Unfortunately, as you saw the sheet, one of the victims removed was Emma, and the other was Billy Todd. They're working on each of them, but what you're going to find out is that she won't be going to the hospital. Billy doesn't need to go to the hospital, because they both have died. The incident commander of the fire department, due to the severity of the injuries and the golden hour, has called dispatch and requested that a medvac helicopter respond to the scene. Now, we won't have that medvac helicopter today, but this would be to get the patients transported to the hospital and to the operating room a lot faster than if they were transported by ground. Now, in my health class, you heard me tell you a lot of things in those few months we spent together. And one of the messages that I tried to get to you was that alcohol is a serious drug. So is marijuana. Driving impaired is a serious issue with real consequences. This can happen to any of you. Luckily, they're coming back to class today. You'll see them at prom tomorrow. But if we're not careful, if we're not smart, our fun night can turn into a tragic night that you'll never forget, and not in a positive way. So what you're gonna see the rest of this school day, you will see your classmates that took part in this activity. You will see them wearing a message around their neck. You'll see things like, I was injured in the result of a car crash. Alcohol-free is the way to be. Be a thinker, not a drinker. I was injured as a result of a car crash. Don't drown your future with alcohol. Less drinking, more thinking. I was killed in a car crash. So you're gonna see Billy and you're gonna see Emma walk in the hall today. They won't talk to you. They won't talk to you because they're dead. Don't drink and drive and you'll stay alive, excuse me. I think the most powerful thing I noticed is that when you were coming down, it was a new experience. Some of you were laughing. Some of you weren't sure what was going on. You saw your friends in the car. But then when you really processed it all, I saw the most serious looks I've seen in your face in a while. We want you to have fun. We want it to be your memorable night. We all really care about you. Look at everything. Look at all these people. We did it for you. We did it for you. Now what you can do for us is to go out there tomorrow night, have fun, make smart decisions, and be safe. Because I don't want to experience this in real life. And I don't think you do either. So let's give them all a big round of applause. And let's be thankful that this was just a mock crash.
If I use my phone, I want to brand new one back.
All right, we're going to dismiss you to third period. And for you juniors and seniors, you'll get to hear it one more time. Wear your seatbelts and have a great day.